All right. Well, today I've got one of my best friends here today, Michael Hyatt. Longtime friend. Been knowing each other for 10, 15 years, maybe close to 20 years now.
Getting old.
Guy has created mega wealth through real estate. Started from a small town, went to a big town, back to a small town, controlling over $100 million in real estate, and has a beautiful family. So, Michael, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, I guess.
Yeah. So 2023 is going to be a big year. You excited about it?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. 2023 is got some goals already. A few that are going to be fun for us to do, and we'll see how we move forward.
Give me one goal.
So one goal that is that actually I started a little bit earlier in the year, the last month or so, is my new word now. I don't want to wait anymore. I want things done now. And so we decided not to wait until 2023 to start that. I started it when I thought of it in December. I said, now is when we're going to start doing this. So whatever we're doing, I want to do it now. If it's a project, if it's a deal, if it's
All right, so
trip.
give me one example that you've already done this year that you're like implementing the now.
Yeah, so one of our properties that we own, operate, manage needed some kind of upgrades, and so we talked about doing the first of the year. And
so you didn't want to like put it off. You're like, let's go ahead and do it now.
Let's do it now. Let's get the process started now. Let's go ahead and give back now and not wait and budget for quarter one. Mm-hmm. We started now, and the funny thing is they're just now really getting the team together to install those upgrades at that community. So
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off. Let's tell me a little bit about your wife, your kids, where you guys live.
So currently live in a little town south of Missoula, Montana.
So you don't live in Missoula. It's south of
right
Missoula?
South of Missoula.
Is that another town?
Florence, Montana.
Okay.
You've never heard of it. It's called people recognize it. We're about 50 miles north of the Yellowstone Ranch or the Yellowstone Show sitcom that everybody's talking about. We're about 50 miles north of there. We bought some property and just about finished with our guest house that we're going to live in for a while.
All right, so this guy is building a barn shop house. It's probably what, a $2 million project? A little under $2 million.
No, it's not that bad. It's a nice, reasonable.
Or tell us how much you spending on it.
I don't know. It's $1 million at least.
So when he first told me, he's like, I'm gonna build a shop house. I'm thinking a metal building with some roll up doors. No,
it's gonna be nice.
We'll have to get a picture of it once you're finished.
Yeah. Parents will be able to stay there. Y'all be able to stay there.
And then eventually you'll build a house.
We're gonna, once we get into this, it's taken us longer than we expected due to COVID and shortage.
All right, so I'm somewhat in the construction business. Is it totally different building in Montana versus, Southwest Louisiana building?
Yeah.
Like construction time?
Yeah, it's a bunch of white boys. They start work about 9 o'clock and they finish about 3, it seems, and they take a 2-hour lunch break. So the mentality in Montana is different. So they're slow. We chose that. I mean, that's one of the reasons we moved to Montana was we kind of jokingly said it was Texas in the mountains. And for us, it works. It's definitely cold, but if I was a roofer, I would understand. You can see them on the roof. They hit a few nails. They stop. They look around and enjoy the mountains. They hit a couple more nails. So the process seems a lot slower.
Yeah.
And then you can complicate things with supply issues and stuff. My wife picked out some wood for the outside that she really, really wanted, and it was like a 4-month. We were waiting on that. So
all right, let's go back. Go back. So you told me where you live. Tell me about your wife, kids.
Yeah. So my wife's name's Holly. We've got 3 kids, currently 10, 9, and 6. And we homeschool the kids. My wife is our teacher. I guess I'm the principal, the enforcer. So definitely props to her because she handles that on a regular basis. And we are real flexible with that. But yeah, we're kind of a family unit that does a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
Because we're home together a lot, or we're home wherever that home might be.
Yeah.
So Holly, she's kind of in charge of the household for
Any kids?
The kids are great, man. The kids are doing good. Sawyer is my 10-year-old, and then Ryder is my 9-year-old. and Jet, our handful is
He's a wild man.
6. Yeah. Yeah. He's the one that causes the most trouble. So,
All right. So one of the things that I think is just crazy to the average person, you guys, you were raised. Were y'all both in DeQuincy?
so both,
You were both.
yep.
Went
Both,
to DeQuincy.
Yep. Both went to DeQuincy. Not that far from here. And I would say we had a typical upbringing for the most part. At
Did
least
y'all
I
date in
did.
high school or?
No, so Holly wouldn't give me much time of the day until basically her senior year. I pursued her at that point and was persistent, and so we kind of started dating my first year of college. Yeah, so that's
All right. Well, give me the short version from DeQuincy to you guys leaving DeQuincy.
man, pretty. I wouldn't say unusual in any way. Played baseball as a kid, went to public school, did the usual thing that you did in the 80s, kids of the 80s. The only, I guess, I would say advantage that I had when I was younger was my dad was in some businesses. And so that was my love. I'd love to spend time with my dad, of course. And so as a kid, I was at the store that he had or the hotel that he built or the flip house that he was doing. And so we were pretty involved in that. So I have probably my youngest, like my association with my dad is probably working. And so that's what I enjoy doing. So, I mean, did I play sports? Yeah, but they were not my thing. I, had a little grass cutting business that I started with the help of my dad when I was about 14 or 13. I can't remember for sure, but really took off and he gave me a goal, which I thought was not attainable. And he told me, when you graduate high school, I think you can have $20,000. And so, kid in the 6th grade, I guess I remember, kid in the 6th grade, I thought there is no way. $20,000 was a crazy number at the time.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, and so he just encouraged me to start doing that. And we opened my own little checking account, and I was persistent. And when I got to, I guess, high school, my senior year, I ended up with like $30,000.
That's
and
awesome.
Nobody was helping us. I mean, my dad, of course, but not financially. We bought our own equipment, and so that really showed me that persistence,
Hard
work, yeah, and kind of putting your head down and grinding through it. Really, it's doable. And
in today's world, like so many people or kids, I've seen it even in close relationships I have, where people they don't want to do anything but want their checking account to be fat.
Yeah.
They don't want to actually do the hard work.
Yeah, and I think the consistent persistence. I don't know if that's a good phrase, but I think that's what people lack. Grit is a good word. My wife read a book, and that's the name of it, was Grit, I believe.
She wrote a book?
Read a book, and the name of it was Grit. And some people have it. I don't know if you can obtain that or not, but yeah, that's what I learned. I feel like my impact when we left and went to McNeese, my wife and I, and my dad actually talked me into not doing anything in business. I don't know if he had a bad business experience or what, but my wife and I both pursued anesthesia. Both ended up graduating from McNeese, did some time in ICU, which is required, more undergraduate work, finished up our degrees.
Did y'all graduate at the same time?
No, she was a year behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, a year behind me. So then we moved on to did some Memphis, Tennessee, where we finished up, did some work there. Both ended up with our degrees doing anesthesia. And I kind of thought, okay, I'm set. We were making what I would consider at the time really good money. I think we were both making like $100,000 a piece, maybe more. I can't remember, but I just remember that was such a big
numbers
number to me.
Yeah.
And I really kind of talked her into. I'm gonna say talked her into, but encouraged her to say, look, let's do some delayed gratification. Let's not buy new cars and a new house, and let's kind of plow money back into some investments. And
you think some of that came back from, or started, or I guess some of that came from when your dad taught you about the
I just
saving
think
money?
Yeah, I think that period of time in my life where I saw what I saw as an unattainable goal, and that was attainable in what I would consider a pretty short time for a kid to do that. I mean, I was a kid. It was incredible for me to see, like, I went from here to here. And my goal when I was young was really just to buy a brand new. I always wanted a Corvette, and I wanted a brand new vet. And
Did you ever buy one?
I did. But I've learned that after we graduated McNeese, I bought. It was the newest C.
How long did you have it?
2 years. I sold it 2 weeks before I went to anesthesia school. It's a terrible investment.
They say Corvette and a Jeep are the two most traded vehicles.
I love that car, but I realized that it was the path getting there that I love so much that I learned it wasn't so much that goal of that vet. So I had the vet, got it out of my system. I don't particularly need one anymore. I'm over that.
All right, so let's fast forward. Let's go to when you guys left and went to Houston. Y'all worked in Houston for a while, both at the same hospital, maybe?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, and then let's fast forward to you guys selling everything and traveling the world, because that's one of the stories that I want you to tell everybody, because of the fact that it's not common what you guys have done.
So after I got out of school, and we lived small, living small was what really the key was to really build that snowball. And I knew that was going to be, I just didn't know how fast I could build it.
So
and
living
get it
small,
rolling.
meaning
living
like
small,
under
like,
your
hey, we
means?
kept a car that my wife she got for high school graduation that she paid for. But like I drove that car for 15 years, and so like I didn't care. And the joke at the hospital was I had to park in the doctor's parking with the guys, and there'd be $120,000 Audi next to me and a Viper next to me, and I would park in between them. And one was like lime green, and the other one was like candy apple red. Beautiful cars. And I would be doing cases with them that day, doing the anesthesia, and I would walk in there and I'd say, hey, if I see a scratch of green or red on my car, I know who it was. Yeah. And I had a $200 car. Yeah. So obviously, no, I was joking. So we continue to make good real estate investments, and then we jumped over to Houston to live there. We were living near Austin, and kind of just plowing through, putting money in the bank and making some good investments. And then we both went part-time when we went to Houston. I didn't want to give up anesthesia because I had so much time invested into it, and it was such a good flag to wave when I went to the bank to borrow money. Was, hey, I can income. I've got this guaranteed income.
Yeah, you got steady income.
Yeah, and so you know how they are. They want to see W-2.
They want to see some money.
That's right. So we jumped to Houston, and a really good position to be in because I didn't have to be there. As far as our job, income was already steady and consistent. We had good savings and stuff, but I just couldn't give up yet on that backup. And so
let me stop you there. Okay. Why did y'all choose? Why did you choose medicine? Why did you choose anesthesia?
It was a guaranteed, man. It was a guaranteed.
Was there somebody you knew already doing it?
That's right. So I had an uncle that
drew you to that.
Had an uncle that did anesthesia, and I went up, did surgery with him on Saturday, and I remember everybody in the room was working, and I guess he was too, but he had his feet kicked up on the anesthesia machine, basically reading the newspaper and monitoring
basically making sure that person was alive.
Making sure. That's right. It was a chill job.
Not going to wake up.
That's right. So I said, man, this is the job I want. And it was guaranteed. So I liked those guarantees. And I thought that I wanted to do something else besides anesthesia, but I know I needed money and an income stream to produce, future revenue for myself. I didn't want to go to investors. I didn't want to be tied to those guys and have to answer to them and build our portfolio based on their requirements and quarterly statements. And I didn't want that. I was thinking long term. So, so jumped over and did Houston for a while and had some really good encouragement there. It was a negative encouragement, but it turned to be, made it positive.
Made it positive, yeah.
Yeah, because the guy that was running the place was so arrogant. The chief that was there, and I wish I would actually name him because he was such a jerk. But he couldn't put his finger on me and or Holly because we were part-time, and he's like, well, I'm gonna cut your hours. I said, that's fine, no problem, So finally we quit, and we decided this.
So you guys, what were y'all making at the time when y'all quit? How much money were y'all making?
I really don't know, because it was just enough to keep our license, and that's what I wanted.
Okay.
And I kind of had a goal at 2020 because I had to do a lot of continuing education, and it was up by then. So I had to make a decision, and I told Holly, like, we're going to quit. And this was right before COVID. This was 6 months before COVID or so. And so we said, we're going to quit. So we quit like in October or so. And so we're going to travel. We're going to sell our house. I'm sick of the humidity, the heat. I'm done. And we pulled our kids out of private school, and we said, we're going to travel. And so that happened. We're getting ready to sell the house. COVID hits, and that delayed us a little bit, but I was so determined, like, I've got this window with my kids to really explore and travel before they get really connected. We're going. So I think I lost a little money on the house when I sold it, but we sold it. We sold basically everything besides our Suburban, and I bought what's it called?
Like a
cargo
trailer.
We organized it in boxes. We simplified everything and said, let's go. And so
everything you owned was in this trailer.
Basically, we put some stuff in storage, but for the most part, I was joking with my son, and he still remembers this, was like we were selling furniture, and I was selling everything. And he's like, well, what are we going to do with all the furniture? I thought we got it. And I showed him my wallet, and I said, you see this? This is storage. I'm going to store it in my wallet. And he still remembers that as a kid. So, we just started traveling and said, man, we're going to figure out where we want to be. So we quit anesthesia. We didn't have license. We dropped everything, and we were like, I'm going to manage this portfolio from the road. Yeah. And it was probably the best deal, is the best decision that we made, one of the top decisions. Mm-hmm. And it allowed us to be kind of a stronger family unit. It was during COVID. I was getting smoking deals on places to stay. I would probably never justify spending the money now at some of these places.
Talking about as far as
we could rent a house
being vacant.
Yeah, they were so happy.
They were normally rented for a crazy amount,
$2,000 a night, and I was renting them for the month for $10,000.
Yeah,
or
because I remember y'all go stay in
Vail
on the East Coast for a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. We just kind of hopped around and did months here and there.
All right, so I'm going to stop you there. Yep. So you were able to quit your job because you were investing in real estate. So what time when you started your anesthesia, and that's where we met. When I met you, you were involved in anesthesia, and I remember you would call me all the time, or I would call you, and you're like, hey, I can't talk right now. Why don't you text me? But you're in a case, but you're like, I want to make sure I'm not missing a deal or whatever the case may be. But by doing that, you saw your uncle, he had his feet kicked up. So during that, did it allow you, so I guess my question is, when did you start? And by doing that, did it allow you to research property a lot while you're working?
No, it gave me some time, but it really was just after. It was just, I got up at 4 to go to the gym, and then I come home. I don't know what time I got up, but it was early, and I spent the time researching, before work, after work. I just kind of grinded along and was looking for deals, and be in that position.
So what made you want to start doing the real estate?
Oh man,
what drove you to that?
Yeah, so that's funny. So I had this conversation with Holly, my wife, and I said, Holly, look, anesthesia is not, I said, this job is not forever for us. And I told her that in the front end. I said, hey, this is a means to an end. And I said, hey, let's pick 3 investments. And those 3 investments were, I think I bought an oil lease. I did some stocks, and I bought my first actual mobile home. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's see which one does the best. And that mobile home did really good. And I kind of just started snowballing from there and realized, okay, I'm going to keep shifting money into real estate because real estate, I love it.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
It was a good return.
It was a good return. And so I just continued to step up one, two, whatever, and kind of rolled from there.
So I heard a statistic just this week, and it was talking about more millionaires are made through financial services, insurance, financial services, lending than in real estate. And contrary, I'm like, where do we get this information? How can you prove it? Because I've always been on the knowledge of more millionaires were made millionaires through real estate. So anyway, that's where I got involved in real estate. But anyway,
I just loved the game. It was a game to me. It was not just about the money. Of course, it was about the money to begin with, but it really, really sets you up to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, my success is not so much, hey, I've got this portfolio. It's, hey, I've got this awesome calendar with my family, and my calendar is set by me. So, hey, you know how we've been traveling pretty heavily, and so I can dictate my own schedule. And I think that to me is where I feel like I'm successful is my time.
Well, and my definition of success isn't a bunch of money or a bunch of cars or whatever the case may be, or owning a big business. My definition is successful in every area of your life, with your kids, your wife, your work, your business, your church, your playtime, and not to be indulged in one and neglect the others, because I know a ton of wealthy people that are miserable, hate their life, or they don't have no time.
Yep.
They have zero time.
If you read most books, the really, really wealthy, really successful people in their last years of their life, nobody ever says, man, I wish I'd have worked more in my 20s or 30s. They always say, I wish I had more time with my family.
Well, and you have been the example for me. And I mean, everybody that knows me recently, I've done a bunch of traveling, and it's all in the past several years, and it's all relative to meeting you. And it opened my eyes to see the amount of time I have in life.
Super short.
I go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get off at 5. I'm wore out. We may have baseball or whatever, but that's it. That's my day. And understanding with you, like, I only have so much time with my kids, and then they're going to be a teenager. They're not going to want to hang out with me as much. They're going to want to be with their kids. And then also, you're able to teach them the things that you want them to learn.
Yeah.
And, thankfully, through our business, we've been able to travel. It costs money to travel. You can't just go and put it all on credit cards and go bankrupt.
Sure.
But having the opportunity to set yourself up business-wise to be able to travel and experience the stuff, because memories is what you remember.
I'm investing in them, and so many times, like, we don't maybe not have tangible asset of a new boat or something,
but you got memories.
But I've got a stockpile of little, small.
100%.
That is so valuable. I've had friends. We were at the zoo, I think, in Chattanooga with some friends, and my friend brought it up because I didn't notice it, and he said, man, it's so cool to listen to your kids have conversation with their siblings. Hey, did we see that cheetah? What was that? Was that the zoo in San Diego? Or was that the one in Denver? Or was that down in Houston? Like, that richness, that we can give them is what's so valuable.
Well, not only that, but I mean, as they grow up, they're going to continue to do the same thing. To
I
some
hope they
degree.
invest in their families. That to me is the thing that so many people, I think, forget about, is especially guys. They want to be like providers, and they want to do, and they think they need to be gone and work 60 hours a week. And so I would advise people to really, from a husband, leader of the household, a spiritual leader, like, invest in your wife, invest in your children, so that when you do go to your wife and say, hey, babe, I'm going to go out on a limb and we're going to borrow whatever that number of money is, she's got the relationship and the confidence in you and knowing what your desire is for the family. It's easy. I see it so many times that I have friends that come to me and say, hey, what is how do I become successful? And I say, well, man, you need to talk to the wife before you do anything. And that's because if you don't have a solid, like, foundation behind you, and that includes your kids, like, you're not going to be successful. You can't come home after a long day of making decisions on things and your wife is going, I told you should have sold that thing. You didn't listen to me. It ain't fun. I mean, at least Holly doesn't do that to me because we have such a good relationship.
Yeah.
But her being a partner is really, really important. At least for us, it works for us.
Well, cool.
So, yeah.
So let's jump back to the mobile home parks.
Okay.
So how'd you get started in the mobile home park? Because you told me you just had bought a mobile home. You didn't actually buy a park yet, right?
Yeah, so I did.
What was your first park you bought?
So first park.
How did that come about?
It was a real estate deal with a friend of ours that was a broker and called me about it and actually asked me if I want to be a partner on it. But
Was that I-10?
Yeah.
That was your first one?
First one. Officially
Oh,
first one.
man. That park there, I'm going to stop you. So that park there, and I don't know if you know, and I think I've told you, but, she asked me, because at the time, she and I were partners.
Yep.
And she's like, hey, there's this guy, there's this park. We want to do it together. We'll 50-50. Me and you will 50% and him 50%. And I'm like, and I didn't give you the time of day. I'm like, I don't know the guy. I don't want to do it. I just wrote it off that simple. Now that just showed how stupid I was. And honestly, like in today's world, that probably cost me well over $1 million. And that right there, it probably cost me a couple million probably. And the thing is, that was a $2 million lesson, but what it did, it taught me to make sure and do my due diligence on every deal, or every meeting. If you bring me a deal, if he brings me a deal, I want to make sure and do my due diligence, because if I would have just met you, I would have connected and we would have done the deal. But I just wrote it off. And that's why today I tell people, if there's a deal and you want to look at it, go look at it and go look at it today. Don't wait, number one. And number two,
go now.
Do your due diligence, because that may be your next move. I heard a guy say the other day, he went to a wedding, didn't want to do the wedding. It was actually Dana White. Dana White ended up going to this wedding, random wedding, met the guy, and that's who he created and did the UFC with. And now it's worth billions and billions of dollars. But if he would have never done that and took the time to meet that guy, he wouldn't have been where he's at today. It's really not relative to doing your due diligence, but you never know when you're going to make that connection. So, but anyway, go back to the park. I'm sorry.
No. What are you doing? Just the deal itself?
So you did that. You did that park. That park led to.
Let me back up a little bit, because I did that. I did that deal, but so I actually talked to my dad at the time. I was in anesthesia school, and I had spent all my money paying for bills.
Right.
You can't work during school, so we were on cornbread and milk diet. So.
Diet due to funds.
Yeah. So I talked my dad into buying a little park in Moss Bluff, and so he did, and he was good with it, and then he ended up buying another deal that he did good with.
Was that his first park?
I think it was his first park of.
But he had done some businesses previously.
He's had a lot of business experience before, but I kind of was like, he needed somebody to push him a little bit more, I think, and I guess he took his.
So were you a part of these parks, or
I
no?
wasn't. I didn't have any money. I didn't have, Dad's not going to just
Sounds like my dad.
Yeah, he's like, hey, you handle you. So I just was an advisor because I love to talk about the deal. I knew the seller. I kind of tried to help make the connection and push that way. But fast forward a couple years, did IT. So I had the experience. I was in the parks helping or understanding and having a conversation. Really, I think so park was not really the first big investment we did. I mean, I did some flip houses. I did some new specs. I don't know what else we did, land deals, and then me and Robbie kind of got hooked up on. Then we did I-10, and that was my first.
We actually
$1 million
did one flip.
Yeah, we did right down the road from them. Yeah. So that was my first $1 million park. I've never borrowed $1 million, and it was Robbie's first $1 million park too, I think.
Yeah,
$1 million deal. And so so we did the deal, and I feel like that it was some God timing in there, because right after that, I think they started announcing these big LNG plants that are around here. Mm-hmm. And so even though our park was not positioned best as far as location, but there was no other options for a lot of these RVs. And so we really scaled it up and really took that park from maybe taking in, I can't remember all the numbers, not as important to me, but maybe 15 a month, and we took it up to like 60 a month,
So 60,000 a month.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what were you making net on that?
Dude, I don't know. No clue.
Okay,
Like
all right.
I don't remember those
So you were
numbers.
grossing 60,000 a month.
I would think so. And
All right.
we were keeping those expenses low, just like, whatever they were at 15, just because the operation of that community was pretty high, a lot of factors. But I realized that I liked the deal. I ended up actually buying, pretty quickly after that, bought another one. Pretty quickly after that, bought another one with my brother and my dad. And then kind of paused for a minute and really getting our feet wet in that business. And then I partnered up with someone else, and we just kind of went to the races, I guess.
Yeah.
So jump markets, and
So how many mobile home parks do you own right now?
I should have thought about that before. I don't know. It's 25.
Okay.
We probably manage, operate, invested in 1,800 spaces, give
That's
or take.
crazy.
So, it was really, really hard to scale up, just like anything. But we really invested in some good people here in the last few years. Just for one, we started traveling, and I wanted to turn some of that responsibility over to somebody more on site because I couldn't be here as much. Realized that we could manage and run these things outside of being right on top of them all the time through really good business partner and just exploring and trying to figure out how to make things work.
Yeah.
So
I know there's some tricks to, negotiating and buying parks like this. I mean, I've bought a few in the past as well. I know there's some avenues to, do owner financing. I know sometimes it's building quality rapport with the people.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're just not interested in selling because in today's world, I know there's so much private equity money. There's so many people out there just trying to buy deals to place money.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of it I feel has been, these parks have been built and grown and nurtured by these long-term tenants. Owners, a lot of them are older generation, and they want to make sure whoever's getting the park's going to really take care of it. How are you negotiating that, and are you seeing, is that what you're seeing on a lot of your deals? Or?
Yeah. So over the last 5 years, easy money, big investors have came in New York, New Jersey, Texas, Minnesota. Some of these big players have came in and thrown some big numbers around. That's happened in the last 2 years, I would say. But before that, what they don't have is they didn't have that personal touch.
Yeah.
And they didn't follow through on their promises. And you get enough of that, and you get enough of that, and people get sick of out of towner bull. And so they go back to what they know, and that's a handshake. I mean, we've done some deals where I've met them at a local convenience store truck stop, and we wrote numbers down on a napkin, and we did the deal. And our bank, we had a good relationship with our bank, and they agreed, hey, they're okay. And we didn't bring them the napkin. I sure wish I'd have scanned that napkin in just for fun to have that today. But even when we refinanced that deal with like a Freddie Mac loan, it was everybody could not believe we bought two parks on a napkin deal and a handshake. And so that generation that owns those communities they still have that mentality. And being able to shake a man's hand, look in his eyes, and say, I've closed every deal, 100% of my deals for what we agreed upon.
Sure.
That's very rare in the market.
That's very rare,
so
yeah.
Developing rapport, making a relationship, and then being genuine, I think that's pretty easy to do if you're just honest with yourself and you're honest with them.
So as far as having all these parks now, you've got a ton of parks, you've got a ton of pads. How is the management of that, being able to travel? Because your parks aren't all in one location.
No.
You've got them spread all over.
Yeah.
So how's the management of that? Is the quality control with you guys being able to have solid people help managing that? And the reason I'm asking these questions is for like somebody that's wanting to do a park. Can they do a park out of town? How hard is it? Is it something anybody can do, or is there a niche to it to where?
I think that people think that are not in real estate or have never owned a property
Think they can buy it and just cash flow.
It's just they think they cash flow. And
It's a lot
that
of work.
happens so often. I hear, oh, man, Mike, you just sit around mailbox money. And that is so not the case, especially on the front end. I'm starting to see that obviously now for scalability.
Hey, my secretary, so she had a park that when I hired her, she had it under contract, had another buyer. It was a 60-unit deal. She sold it. I think their vacancy rate, they had 2 vacant spots. And I think he's got close to half a vacancy rate right now. And he did the same thing. They were just out of town, big money, came in, threw money at it, and left. And it has slowly just gone down.
Yep.
Which includes it's decreasing in value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hey.
If you don't have that personal relationship with, I mean, even your residents, like we when we first got started, we would do, we'd have hey, we bought the park. We would go to the park, have desserts and drinks and let them ask questions and fuss at us and tell us what they want. I mean, we don't get to do that as much anymore, but our team does that more now. I think,
Do you have a solid manager at every park?
I would say we don't call them managers anymore. We call them community leaders.
Okay.
And so we try to place, or especially within the park, within the community, each community has a community leader, and it's just somebody to go to.
Yeah.
And then each one of those community leaders have, I would say each one of them have different skill sets. Some of them only want to be their park, their little spot. They've been there 30 years. They know everybody. They want a really, really simple deal. And then others want to do go to other parks and help out. So we kind of have this big variation of our community leaders. And then we have we've hired a property management company. We've hired a guy. We help him create his own business, which is a property management company that helps manage our properties. And then we've done that recently with another young lady that's helping as well. So it's we've invested in other people by doing that. They've turned around and invested in us as well.
So one of the things, being an investor, one of the things that I think I would want to know is tell me some of the ways you've bought these parks, financing. What kind of money are you putting down? So like I want to buy some parks. So like what kind of money am I going to need? Am I going to have to put down 20%? Are there some opportunities to do owner financing? What have y'all done the most of?
I would say that we haven't done the most of anything. I'm always seeking owner financing. Like that's the goal.
And is that just because you have less money to put down?
It's so many combinations.
Just stays off of your...
Man, there's so many reasons for an individual that's 70 years old that wants to sell their park. Yeah. You can give them a
monthly income.
And there's so many ways.
Doesn't get hammered with a big
taxes.
Tax
yes,
break,
yeah. So we can even pay more for some of these properties, allowing them to recoup that income, because ultimately that's what they want. They just want the income, and they're scared to give up.
Well, have you found
control.
that some of these people though are nervous to give up control of their park if they're going to finance it, and you run it in the ground and then they get it back and it's doo-doo?
You know why? Because relationships. So somebody from New Jersey comes in, you're not going to own
quality rapport with them.
That's it. I've taken. We did a deal.
You're such a good old country boy.
Yeah, exactly. Just that's what I am. I mean, and it's true. Like I am. I'm a country boy from DeQuincy. I'm not special.
I mean, you got long hair. Yeah. Hey, this guy once had a pair of shoes for 1 year.
We tried that.
Shoes, boat shoes, hike shoes.
Yeah. So Adam, just this is my newest 1 year. I did that when we traveled. I kind of said,
that just blows my mind. I'm like, he's got more money, knows what to do with it. He's got one pair of shoes.
Hey, and this is it. I bought another pair. This is the ones I got. I just upgraded a year ago, so I'll keep these for a year.
I didn't mean to get you off track.
I don't know. What was I telling you?
I don't even remember.
See, it wasn't that important. How to buy them, I guess. How to finance them.
Yeah, financing. Your owner financing.
Yeah, owner finances are good. Lease purchase deals are important.
So I mean, how many are you owner financing with a bank, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, whatever?
I don't know. Like it starts to get complicated.
But I'm saying a handful of them you're doing.
Oh
that?
yeah, absolutely. We've got I've got one right now. That we did a deal with, and the lady that was selling had a very specific price that she wanted. And everybody told me, you're a moron if you pay that. And I was the moron that paid that because we got really good terms. It was like a 30-year fixed. I think I put $50,000 down on the deal, and it was $1 million deal. And
how many spaces?
I think it was 48 or 50 spaces. So good location, needed some work, just needed to go in there and invest in the community.
Yeah.
And she allowed me to do that because I only put $50,000 down.
Yeah.
And she had to hit her big number. But what we did was she got her number. She wanted $1 million. And I said, okay, we'll do it. I said, the numbers don't work. She saw it and, said, okay, well, let's tag it on the end. So I think I did in 30 years from now. So I did fixed financing with her. She got a fixed income for 30 years.
So what do you mean tagging on the end?
So at the end, she gets her last payment, whatever, 360, that 60 month. She gets $100,000 at the last payment's $100,000, but that's 30 years.
30 years from now.
30
She
years.
won't be here in 30 years.
Yeah. So I mean, another little thing that we added in the contract was her kids will probably end up.
So you've got a deal where you can pay it off though. There's no prepayment penalty. You settle that up in your contract.
Yeah,
so
but I don't want to pay it off.
No. I'm just saying if you ever sell your portfolio, for example.
Oh yeah, they can assume that loan if they want
Right.
to. So it's assumable, and there's a clause in there that says we get first right if the kids want, like if she passes away and the kids want to sell the loan, we could be the first person to buy the loan.
Gotcha.
And so we just set a lot of that up on the front end. And what's recorded at the courthouse is one thing that says, hey, you paid $1 million. And I've had realtors like, hey, that's dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm dumb.
Yeah.
Let me be dumb over and over again. So, yeah, we've been told whoever buys this park is stupid. And I'd say I'll be the stupid one that buys the park because they didn't know. They didn't do their due diligence. They didn't know the market. They didn't do their homework. They don't understand parks, and we're the ones that buy those parks.
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought is the opportunity for you guys, to buy stuff at a higher price than, let's say, I could buy it at, because you've got to put your money somewhere. You've got to be able to put things in different positions, and you can obtain a lesser rate because you have a different strategy than I may have.
Sure. So. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, and that's what these big equity groups are doing. They're just got money that people are handing them, and they're trying to find a spot to put it, which is what really drove the price per pads up. I think they're going to eventually come back down with these higher interest rates.
Yeah.
And we're in a position where our kind of goal is like, if we don't buy and it's cash flowing day one, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for me to buy a bad asset unless it's in specific markets. But yeah, our markets that we buy in, we know. I've got, we got a deal that we're doing. It's going to cash flow day one before we really even touch it. We're going to do bank financing. We're only doing 15% down, 25-year. We got a really good relationship with the bank. But then we do another one up in Ohio, and it's some owner financing is going to be involved. So every deal is different, and as my grandfather would say, there's so many ways to skin a cat.
Yep.
You just got to figure out that. That's why I hate, no offense to real estate brokers, is a lot of times the ones that are not very confident in themselves, they get in the way of the deal.
Sure. Oh,
and
100%.
So if you can be comfortable as a real estate agent to get out of the way and let the investor talk to the buyer and have that relationship, because the buyer has one objective and the seller's got an objective, but let's see how they can mutually benefit each other.
Yeah.
That's my, that's what we try to do.
I think we're running out of time, and a couple things I want to ask you before is, this is changing the subject, but you've traveled the world. What's been a world? You've traveled to U.S. like crazy. What's been your favorite place that you've traveled?
I don't want to tell you on camera because they're gonna show up there. But I can tell you, we really liked Vail, Colorado. That was a nice place to go. So go to Vail, Colorado.
Oh, that's doo-doo, man.
Yeah. Okay. So really,
that's horrible.
So one of my favorite places is in, I'm going to say Whitefish, Montana. We just really, really love it in Montana in general. It's the people that are there. It's the small town feel. So no, we really, really love, like, why go on vacation?
That's been our favorite places.
Yeah. So like, why go on vacation of somewhere So we just said we're going to live where we want a vacation.
Yeah.
And
so that's why you ended up in
that's why we
Montana.
ended up buying some property. Whitefish was too touristy, and so Missoula was more like a town that we could raise our family in, and we met a lot of good people. Bought some property in the Bitterroot Valley, and so we just really love living where we like to vacation, and that's Montana.
All right,
and it's not for everybody.
Last question: if you could tell your 20-year-old self something, what would you tell him?
20-year-old self, I could.
If Michael Hyatt came to you and says, "Hey, tell me what I need to do,"
I would probably have started investing in real estate earlier. That's probably there was.
I don't know any investor that wouldn't say the same thing.
Yeah, like I would have. My dad told me, "Hey, you ought to go ahead and buy that." I didn't have any money, build those duplexes. Or, man, I wish I'd have done that when I was 20 instead of buying that Corvette when I was like 24. If I'd have taken that money, and I probably have been, quote, retired, as most people call me, a little earlier, and been able to travel a little more. So, yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I would have done too much different.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and y'all are flying back out to Montana.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we'll do tomorrow. Yep.
Well, cool.
Yeah, park the bus and head back.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, dude.
Yep.